Could really do with a ride. Let's see what the weather's like.
Oh, my son, your ambition is not going to be met by the winter weather. You must make a pilgrimage to the highest bike shop in North London. There, you will find your missing piece of your training puzzle.
I guess I could do
I
that.
have no time to explain. It is your destiny. Now, I must go.
So I made my way to the highest bike shop in North London, Muswell Hill Bikes, my LBS, where I was greeted by the missing piece of my winter training, my very first indoor trainer. It was then that for the next 7 days, I would be sucked into the Matrix. Zwift. So my only experience indoor training has been a set of zero resistance rollers that were great for the first winter that I started cycling. I was heavy, I could push 400 watt intervals without spinning out, but things have changed and I need something more complex to fill in the gap in my cycling training. Ideally, I'd be doing an hour a day hill training, and when the weather is as bad as it has been, I just can't do that. It's not even safe to do that. So I need something that fills in that gap, that mimics, gets as close as possible to that same stimulus I get from a hill training session out on the road. And if Zwift can do that, then it's going to be useful and worth the $15 per month for me. Getting set up was easy. I had a pretty bog standard MacBook Air, downloaded Zwift and used Bluetooth across the board. No ANT dongle required. The tacks would control the resistance, and within minutes I was chasing down every rider in front of me with the same will as I would in the real world. Ideally, I probably would have at least had 2 fans, but windows wide open would have to suffice. I found the most accurate configuration was to have the tacks control the resistance of the road and have my power meter read out the watts and cadence. Using the tacks alone to output the power wasn't enough, as it didn't seem to represent the true power and cadence relationship accurately. In the first few days, I could definitely tell there was a difference in the technique that you had to use on the indoor trainer as opposed to how you would pedal out on the open road to output a similar kind of wattage. Once I'd got the hang of the differences and adapted my style a little from the road, I progressed from just free riding around whatever map there was that day to the structured workouts, which were okay, but I can get a similar stimulus from just watching training videos on YouTube, and I wanted more and found this in the racing. Racing was the biggest draw for me. The stimulus was high and pushed me to go way beyond what the workouts could. If I was to do a race a day on Zwift, I would be satisfied I was getting as close to mimicking real-world training gains from doing a hill rep session as I possibly could imagine right now. Lose that front group in a race, bringing them back is going to be near to impossible. Twice, I buried myself to bridge a gap between a front group, only to have it disappear as I lost internet connection. Because at the moment I'm time poor and the weather has been so bad, I've definitely made gains during my 7 days in the Matrix that I wouldn't have if the road was my only terrain that I got to train on. And also because this is a new world to me. Every day something was new in Zwift and the stimulus was high, which meant that I wanted to train, that I wanted to push hard.
This may not be the open road, but I don't know how else I'm going to be able to recreate racing in the dark with no lights against everyone else in the world, up a volcano in the shorts with a massive hole in the back of them, while simultaneously being in the middle of a dirty grime session.
As soon as something gets really familiar, then the stimulus drops off and I lose interest, and I just won't get the same gains out of a training session that I would as I am now. 7 days is probably not long enough for me to get bored of Zwift, to find out everything there is in Zwift. So the pros: instant setup and easy to get into. When it comes to maximum gains transfer to your real world performance, unique to Zwift, the racing is where it's at. Cons: for what I'm looking for, it's a relatively expensive entry point to be able to mimic accurate power output as closely as possible with a real road feel. Because, you know, I can get access to Zwift with just my set of rollers, my zero resistance rollers and my power meter, but that's just nowhere close to what I need to be doing right now. And I might as well be out in the rain or just resting. There's a lot of feature fluff that doesn't add anything of value. If you wanted to fire a power up in a race, I think you should probably just play Mario Kart instead. So once the 7 days in the Matrix was up, the real test as to whether I felt Zwift was worth the $15 per month subscription fee to me is if I press the renew button. Anything I do has to be fun, and the stimulus is key to the quality of training. And for me right now, with the weather not meeting my ambition, Zwift being a new, shiny stimulus that I'm not close to bored of yet, as long as that remains the case, I'll be subscribing. In my lifetime, Zwift will never replace the open road. It's not why I got into cycling, but it's a unique way to mimic the stimulus of the road to gain advantage in reality.